Calificas para ser legal. ¿Quieres saber? Solo llama al abogado Andrés Mejer.
Good morning. And it's a very early morning here in Arizona. 7 a.m. over here. We're 3 hours behind you. My name is Andrés Mejer. I'm an author, a public speaker, and an immigration attorney. And I'm traveling I'm in Arizona. So this week I'm traveling because I have a TV appearance on Channel 7 in Arizona. And I also have an appearance in NBC on California. And next week I have ABC in Washington, D.C. So it's a busy couple of days here. During my time in Arizona, I will be meeting with two different groups of attorneys. Scott Davis Stewart, he does criminal law and family law, serves the immigrant community, as well as Maria Jones. She's an immigration attorney here in Arizona. So we're going to be comparing notes, what they do, how they do it, how they help the Hispanic community. And today we have a wonderful show. We're going to be talking about what those TV appearances are about, what I'm discussing with those attorneys. Second, we're going to talk about the 3 common misconceptions that people have about immigration. And lastly, the third thing we're going to talk about are the 5 critical mistakes that can keep you from achieving legal status. Thank you for tuning in to the English segment of our radio program, Para Ser Legal to Be Legal. My name is Andrés Mejer, and let's begin. So in this first part of this segment, I'm in Arizona. I'm 3 hours behind you. I had to get up really early this morning for my radio program, which I just finished. It was in Spanish, so now we're having the same program here in English. I'm very excited to be on the multiple TV appearances that I have coming up in Arizona, in California, as well as in DC, and in the future will be Chicago, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and San Diego in California. All of those are coming up in the coming weeks. So before that, one of the segments that I will be doing, the 3 common misconceptions about immigration. So the first common misconception that people have about immigration is that just having a child in the U.S. automatically entitles you to legal status. That is just false. In reality, you have to apply for something and be approved in order to achieve any benefit here in the U.S. Now, here are some common ways in which your child can help you. The first is if you entered the U.S. legally and your son or daughter is over 21 years old. Now, it's not automatic. Your son or daughter has to apply for you. It takes about a year, but you will get your green card. But you gotta wait 21 years. And in this climate, it is unlikely that you will be in the U.S. for 21 years without being apprehended by ICE. It can happen, it has happened, but there are too many ways in which bad things can happen. So, second way, if your son or daughter goes to the military. So if your son or daughter is over 18, because obviously your 5-year-old's not going to the military. So if your son or daughter is over 18 and goes to the military, you get what's called parole in place. That is, your son or daughter should not have to worry about what's going to happen to you while they are putting their life on the line for this country. So for that reason, you receive that benefit. But of course, your son or daughter has to apply and be in the military or honorably discharged from the military. The third way your son or daughter might be able to help you is if they have a severe medical disability and you have to be here more than 10 years. There's a process called cancellation of removal where you have a trial in front of a judge and the judge has to find that you've been in the U.S. more than 10 years, that you're a good moral person, that you've not been disqualified because of a conviction. And fourth, that your son or daughter will suffer extreme and unusual hardship if you are deported. The idea here is your son or daughter receives medical attention and other treatment in the U.S., and they have access to that treatment in the U.S., where if you get deported, your son or daughter will likely go with you and will lose access to that treatment and thereby suffering extreme and unusual hardship. But hey, it's a trial. It's not automatic. None of this is automatic. The last is the U visa. And we'll be talking more about the U visa in a little bit. And we have talked about the U visa many times on this show because we love U visas. There aren't many ways where we can help an entire family with one petition. The idea of the U visa in this context is if your son or daughter who's under 21 is a victim of a violent crime like assault, like sex abuse. Those are the two most common ones. Kids, there's a lot of bullying in school. So I had one case, and I watched a video. 13-year-old boy sitting at a table during lunch. A kid comes up to him while he's eating. You could tell that he doesn't even see what's going on. Gets punched in the face, knocked to the ground, and this other kid kicks him in the face and keeps on hitting him. He's already out cold. He didn't see it coming. It was completely broadsided. So, because there was a video, and the child had to be rushed to the hospital. He had a concussion. He was in a coma for a day. That's how bad the beating was. That child got arrested. That child got convicted. And despite the fact that the kid, the 13-year-old boy, is a U.S. citizen, parents could apply and receive the U visa. Because the idea is parents, one, are the indirect victims, number one. Number two, the son or daughter would not be reporting and speaking to the police without the assistance of the parents. At the end of the day, there was a trial. Who's going to bring the child to court? Police isn't going to pick you up. You have to show up. So, because of that, if the victim, in this case your son or daughter, is under 21, when you apply for the U visa, the parents get the benefit, so do his siblings. So imagine now he's 20 years old, he's applying, but he has a 19-year-old brother who was not born in the U.S. So maybe the family was in the U.S., he was born, left, brother was born, then came back to the U.S. So he's a U.S. citizen, he doesn't have any issues, but his brother doesn't. And there's only 1 year difference. What's the fairness? There isn't any. Unfortunately, that does happen. Here's a situation where your son or daughter can help you. But again, it's not automatic. It's not, oh, I have a kid, automatically I get status. That doesn't happen. It's a common misconception when you hear in the news on conservative media and the concept of anchor babies. It's nonsense. It really is. It's clearly by somebody that has no idea about what immigration is actually about. Second common misconception about immigrants is that immigrants don't pay taxes. Look, nothing could be further from the truth. Immigrants pay billions of dollars in taxes every single year. How? Well, I know many immigrants that work with a fake Social Security number. I know it's a common thing. They just make up a number. Well, from every paycheck, taxes are deducted. That's one way. Another is having an ITIN, individual tax identification number. So imagine I'm undocumented, I'm working in the United States, I'm obligated to pay taxes, but how do I do it? I don't have a social. I apply for the IRS for an ITIN, individual tax identification number. The IRS will give you that number, knowing you have no legal status. IRS doesn't care. They'll accept your money. And they accept billions of it every single year. Now, some of those immigrants pay twice. Once with the fake social, then they file for the taxes using an ITIN, and they pay taxes a second time. And they get no benefits, meaning if they're unemployed, they can't accept unemployment benefits. If they're disabled, they can't get Social Security. They don't get any of the benefits that you or I enjoy, but they still have to pay taxes. Now, immigrants also pay sales taxes. You know, in New Jersey, it's 6.5%, it's 7%, depending on what you're buying. Car, food, clothes, you name it. You got to pay taxes on it. So do they. Now, Many immigrants own homes. Those that have been here, typically more than 10 years, have purchased a home, even though they don't have legal status. Well, they pay property taxes. If they rent, their rent payment goes to the landlord, who then pays real estate taxes. So you get it, billions of dollars by any of these four common ways that immigrants pay taxes. Now, the third common misconception about immigration is that just by being in the U.S. long enough automatically entitles you to employment authorization or some other form of legal status. And as you heard from the prior misconception, that is simply not true. You have to apply and receive something in order to get any benefit. Look, there are over 11 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. The majority have been here more than 10 years and don't have legal status. It is not automatic. Now, estimates say at least a third of that undocumented immigrants qualify for something, but they haven't gotten it because they didn't apply. It could be a family-based petition. Employment-based petition is unlikely because they're undocumented, but in very narrow circumstances, there is a possibility for an employment-based petition. Could be the Visa U, victim of violent crime that we spoke about before. Could be special immigrant juvenile if it's your minor child, and one of his parents have abandoned, abused him, or mistreated him in some fashion. Could be an asylum claim. There's a variety of different ways to achieve legal status, 9 principal ones, as we talk about in our book. Do you qualify for U.S. legal status? If you want a copy, just give us a call at 888-888-0307 or reach out to us on Facebook or on our website at Andrés Mejer Law, and we'll give you a copy of the book. If you're in New Jersey, we'll mail it to you. If you're outside of New Jersey, we'll send you an electronic version. So that was the 3 common misconceptions that people have about immigration. That we're going to discuss that, or I'm going to be discussing that in one of my 2 TV appearances. In the third is 5 critical things to avoid if you want to achieve legal status. So for those of you that are just tuning in, my name is Andrés Mejer. I'm a speaker, author, and immigration attorney, and I'll be appearing in Arizona Channel 7. I'm in Arizona now. I'll be appearing in NBC in California and ABC in Washington, D.C. the following week. And we're going to there's a number of different segments. So one of them is the 3 common misconceptions that people have about immigration, about immigrants. We just finished that one. Now I'm going to talk about the 5 critical things to avoid if you want to achieve legal status. Now, these segments on TV are short. I have much more time to talk to you and elaborate on these issues than I will with the studio audience. So, for example, when I talked about the 3 common misconceptions, pretty much I'm going to list them. But here I was able to go into detail. What are the ways that having a child in the U.S. could help you? And, most of them take 18, 21 years. You have to be here a long time, and only in very narrow circumstances is having a child going to benefit you. You really have to apply for something, and you have to qualify for something. And it's usually not because you have a child. We also talked about that immigrants do, in fact, pay taxes, and that immigrants have to qualify for something in order to achieve legal status. They don't just get it automatically. So now we're going to talk about 5 common things that you have to avoid if you want to achieve legal status. Number 1 is domestic violence. Just about every single domestic violent incident that I've ever been involved in, whether it's defending the accused who's charged with committing domestic violence, or it's helping the victim who was abused and she wants to get a restraining order, or she wants her abuser to be convicted of assault. In almost every one of those situations, there was alcohol involved. It usually starts it's usually the guy, but it doesn't have to be. Very many of them were actually a woman that had too much to drink and lost control. But for this example, let's assume it's me. It's 2 a.m. I come home. I'm drunk. I just came back from hanging out with the guys. My wife's home. She's up. She's worried. I haven't answered any of her calls. And she starts yelling at me when I come in. It's 2 in the morning. What are you doing? Where you been? What's going on? And I lose it. I react poorly. Maybe I push her. Maybe I threaten her. Maybe I hit her. The police gets called. Now, maybe my neighbor called the police. Maybe one of my kids, God forbid, called the police and saw what I was doing. Or she called the police, whatever. Often it is she's going to go she's going to call the police. She said, I'm going to call the police. And I grab the phone from her, and because I'm drunk, I only mean to grab the phone, but by accident, I stumble and I push her to the ground, and now she's injured. Police shows up, they see that she's injured, I'm getting arrested. No matter what she says, I'm getting arrested. Now, they're going to ask her, ma'am, are you afraid? Do you want a restraining order? And she might say, I know he's not like this when he's sober. Just please take him out of the house. In which case, they won't give her a restraining order. Or she might say, you know what? I don't know what he's going to do. He goes crazy. And now they give her a temporary restraining order, and I can't go back into my house. Period. Now, within 10 days, now, it doesn't matter if I pay for it. It doesn't matter if the house is in my name. None of that matters. The point is, I can't go back. So I get arrested. I get taken out of the home. Within 10 days, we're going to go in front of a Superior Court judge. And that judge is going to decide, does she get a permanent restraining order or not? New Jersey is different from other states. If the judge gives her a restraining order, it is permanent for life, unless she or I goes and appeals for it to be withdrawn or modified in some fashion, which often does happen. But it's not automatic. Take New York, for example. It's only valid for a year. So the onus is on the person who wants the restraining order to apply to renew it, to maintain it. That's not the case in New Jersey. So a domestic violence incident can result in 2 separate court appearances in front of 2 separate judges. One is the restraining order aspect, which tends to happen relatively quickly. If you're the victim, there's no prosecutor there that's going to help you. There's no public defender that will assist you. You have to hire private counsel, or you have to go and do it on your own. There will be a trial, and you'll be testifying. The abuser will be testifying, and the judge is going to decide, are you entitled to a permanent restraining order? The second scenario is the criminal complaint. Now, depending on the severity, it's either going to be a municipal court, which is your local court, which handles assault, simple possession of drugs, DUIs, and traffic violations, and code enforcement issues. It's usually in your city, unless they've merged with another city. If it's a serious incident, you fell, you broke your arm, that will be in Superior Court. Consequences are much more severe. In municipal court, maximum 6 months jail. In Superior Court, well, up to life imprisonment. Now, you don't usually get life imprisonment for a domestic violence incident, but hey, imagine that murder. That could be a domestic violence incident. So yeah, it can be very serious depending on the circumstances. But 2 different courts, 2 different judges, 2 different sets of circumstances. Now, if you're the victim in a domestic violence incident and you get a restraining order, or your spouse or partner or your roommate, doesn't have to be a spouse or partner, gets convicted and you're undocumented or illegal in the United States, you almost certainly qualify for a U visa, and I can help you. Let me repeat that. If you received a restraining order protecting you, or your abuser was convicted of abuse, whether it's assault, whether it's harassment, whether it's terroristic threats, which isn't terroristic, but it's a threat that causes fear. So it's not about terrorism, it's about causing fear. Those are the 3 most common ones. Sometimes it could be trespass. Convicted of any one of those things, you're the victim, you reported to the police, you assisted with the investigation, you went to court, you testified, you can get a U visa. And we spoke about what that is in many times in the show, but particularly at the first segment. Now, second, critical thing to avoid if you want to achieve legal status in the US. DUI. Driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. As you can see, there's a common theme. Alcohol is the most problematic situation because it results in people doing stupid things. So after work, I went to the bar. I had a couple of drinks with my friends. I thought I was fine. I get behind the wheel. It's Friday. It's 10 o'clock. It's at the Jersey Shore. Officer pulls me over. Asks me, son, you've been driving? Well, obviously I've been driving since I am driving. You've been drinking? And you tell the officer no, but you happen to have a six-pack open in the car on the seat right next to you. That's not going to go very far. You just lied to the officer, and there's proof right there. That's silly. There's no point doing that. If you tell the officer yes, congratulations, you're almost certainly getting arrested. What you should say is, respectfully, officer, I'm not answering any questions without my attorney present. Here's my red card, so I don't have it to show you because I'm in Arizona. But if you call our office or contact us through Facebook or on the website, 888-888-0307. That's 888-888-0307. We'll get you that free red card that has your rights on it. So you don't have to remember everything I'm telling you. You don't need to remember not to talk to the police. You don't need to remember to say, listen, I do not consent to a search. I am not voluntarily talking to you. You don't have to remember that. You just present the card and shut up. The investigation ends. Now, they'll ask you your name. You have to answer that. They'll ask you for your registration, insurance, title. You'll have to provide that. But you don't have to answer any substantive questions, and you shouldn't because you've requested, you enforced your right to counsel. So DUIs, big problem. First offense, it's broken down into 3 levels. You know, they're measuring what is the level of alcohol in your system. The law says if you have more than 0.08, you're drunk and shouldn't be driving. But the first offense, it's tiered. So 0.08 to 0.10 is one level offense. 0.10 to 0.15 is the second level. 0.15 and up is the third level. Only the first offense has that difference. Now, consequences can be loss of license from 3 months to 10 years. Jail could be no jail on a tier 1 to 10 years on a third offense. Second offense, you lose your license for 10 years. I'm sorry, for 2 years. Third offense, you lose it for 10 years. Second offense, mandatory jail 1 to 5 days. Third offense, 6 months mandatory. Judge has no discretion. They can also force you to install what's called an ignition interlock device. That's where, before you want to start the car, you have to breathe into a machine. If it believes you have alcohol in your system, it won't start. Period. And you can't get your license back until you install that ignition interlock for the appropriate period of time. Now, if you're convicted, immigration considers that an aggravated crime. They consider it a felony. It's a big deal. Now, New Jersey does not have felonies or misdemeanors. They have indictables or non-indictables, but it's really the same concept. What's the severity of the offense? New Jersey treats a DUI as a motor vehicle offense, a traffic offense, not a crime. Immigration treats it as a crime because the majority of states in the union treat it as a crime. So it is a big deal. In the radio show, Edgar posted a question. He said, listen, if I applied for citizenship and it was denied me, can I be placed in removal proceedings? And I said, really, it depends on what the crime is. So if I was convicted of a DUI yesterday and I'm having my citizenship interview tomorrow, I will be denied because they're going to say I'm not a good moral person. So if 5 years go by or 4 years go by, I can make the argument I've been rehabilitated. It hasn't happened again. It was a one-time thing. I did what I needed to do. I'm a better person for it. And I can prove that. I can document I went to AA meetings. I can document I went to a detox program. I can document that I went to church and found God, whatever that process was. Point is, I'm a different person. I have to prove it. Well, with that, likely I will get my citizenship. So, but if all I have is one DUI and I'm a green card holder, I will not be put in removal proceedings. If I've had 3, 4, 5, that's a different story. That's a different scenario altogether. So every case is separate. Typically, DUI by itself does not result in removal proceedings if I'm a green card holder. But hey, if I'm undocumented, if I'm not here legally in the United States, a DUI, ICE is going to be looking for me. In New Jersey, if I'm convicted of an offense, typically within 60 days or sooner, ICE is going to show up and come looking for you. Very big deal. If you're facing a DUI, give us a call or call someone. Make sure you don't go and plead guilty. Make sure you fight for your rights. I'd rather you try the case in DUI, in municipal court, lose an appeal, than plead guilty and then have to face, detention, removal from the U.S., and then potentially having to reopen the DUI and do what you didn't do initially, which is fight for it. Don't let it happen to you. Third critical mistake to avoid if you want to achieve legal status in the U.S. is driving without a license. I know driving, it's not a crime. Yeah, well, actually it is, but it's a traffic violation. But often what happens is, look, I'm driving someone else's car, police runs the plates, or police already know me. They see me driving here each time. This time he pulls me over. For whatever reason, he runs the plates, and he could check. The officer can check. Is the car insured? Is the owner of the vehicle does he have a valid license? Is the car registered, or did it expire? All of these things they could check like that. Now, if the owner of the vehicle is a guy, I'm a guy. Officer doesn't know that it's not my car, pulls me over, that's a valid stop, asks me for my documentation, I don't have any. Automatically, I'm getting charged with driving no license and maybe something else. If I go to jail, even for a day, ICE is going to consider me a criminal and try to deport me. And that is what's happening way too often. People don't hire an attorney for driving without a license. They plead guilty, they wind up in jail. Depending on what court, depending on what circumstances, it's not every incident that results in jail time, but some of them too. I know, like, for example, Judge Barub in Little Silver. He'll tell you, I'm telling you now, you can't drive. If I see you in one of my courts again, I will put you in jail. And he does it. So you got to be very careful. Fourth critical mistake to avoid if you want to achieve legal status is waiting till you're detained to apply for legal status. Don't wait. As I said earlier in this program, there's over 11 million undocumented immigrants. Over a third of those qualify for something. They just never went to the right attorney or never went to any immigration attorney and didn't investigate their options because they just think, nothing I can do. Not true. There's 9 different things you can do, and you may qualify for one of them. The fifth critical mistake to avoid if you want to achieve legal status, we spoke about this one earlier also in the segment. If you're a parent, you've been here over 10 years, and you have a child with a severe medical disability, you can achieve legal status in the U.S. Most don't know about it. Find out. Don't wait. I'm Andrés Mejer. Thank you for joining me in this program. I look forward to talking with you next week, and I look forward to stay tuned because I'm going to share my TV appearance at Arizona Channel 7 and NBC in California and ABC in Washington, D.C. So those will be coming to a home near you. Until next time, I'm Andrés Mejer.
Calificas para ser legal, ¿quieres saber? Solo llama al abogado Andrés Mejer.